the Canon EOS R. I've had this for a few months now. My previous camera, which I still have, is the Canon 5D Mark IV. In this video, I'm going to talk about some of the reasons why I love the Canon EOS R. First, here's a comparison of the size difference of the bodies of the 5D Mark IV and the EOS R. From what I understand, it's a very similar, if not the same, sensor. So the photography still quality that you get from both cameras is very close, if not identical. I haven't done a very scientific comparison between the two, but upon me using it for a few months now, I can't tell the difference between the image quality in stills. The 5D Mark IV is heftier and a little heavier in the hand, but the EOS R is a solid camera, and it feels very good in the hand. It's, with the exception of all of the massive lenses that you have to put on the EOS R, the body itself is amazing. It's amazing to hold for me. Here are the reasons why I like the EOS R. It is a mirrorless camera. So you have a slimmer profile, and because it's mirrorless, I can use the electronic LCD a lot more than I could with the 5D Mark IV. With the 5D Mark IV, you could enable the live view, but it's a little clunky because there's that mirror box in there, so the response time to me wasn't as fast, and I just didn't feel comfortable leaving the live view on and shooting away from my eye. It wasn't natural for me to shoot that way. I would always use the Optical Viewfinder when I'm composing my shots and when I'm taking my photos with the 5D Mark IV. But as I was using the EOS R, I just loved to shoot away from my body, so I was not looking at the EVF. I was just looking at this screen, and it just seemed so much better, faster for me to shoot and compose shots. Also, this is huge, the flip out screen might be the biggest selling point for this camera. If the 5D Mark IV had a flip out screen, I might have not, I maybe wouldn't have convinced me to get the EOS R, but there have been so many times when I'm on a shoot where I am getting low to the ground, or I want to shoot at angles that I just can't put my head in front of the viewfinder, so I need to have a flip out screen. And having this flip out screen, it seems such a simple, small deal, but it's huge. And that alone made me want to purchase this. And in combination with it being mirrorless, because I could have also gotten the 6D Mark II that has a flip out screen, but it's not the same as a mirrorless camera, where when I'm using the LCD, there's no mirror box and there's no delay. The battery life in the 5D Mark IV already felt really long, with just one battery. But the same battery in the EOS R, I feel like I can shoot for days without changing the battery. In fact, I did a shoot recently. It was a 3-hour shoot. I was primarily shooting stills, but I had the LCD on, and the battery was only halfway by the end of the shoot. I find the autofocus to be better in the EOS R compared to the 5D Mark IV, even though I think the sensors are the same. The fact that I use the LCD screen a lot now, I can touch the focus. So I'm getting more things in focus, more of my subjects in focus with the EOS R than I did with the 5D Mark IV. It's a different way, different techniques of shooting, but I've gotten a lot lazier and I'm so used to touching to focus. So the EOS R fits the bill in that regard. Now, when it comes to video specs, I never used the 5D Mark IV for very much video because it was too clumsy, the file sizes were too big, there was that crop in 4K. I just didn't use it for video. With the EOS R, it's a lot friendlier for video. It's not the best. There's other cameras that are better. For example, the GH5S that I'm shooting on now is way better in all aspects for video. But compared to the 5D Mark IV, I am now using the EOS R for more video. And what I love about the video features here, you have more codecs to choose from than you do with the 5D Mark IV. And you also have Canon log built into the EOS R, whereas you had to purchase that separately in a hardware. I think it's a hardware upgrade with the 5D Mark IV. You can't do it on your own. It's not a firmware thing. You have to actually take this into a Canon store, and they have to do it inside the store. One thing I found interesting with the codecs is that the 5D Mark IV had the DCI 4K, which is 4096 by 2160, and the EOS R does not have DCI 4K. The highest it has is UHD 4K, which is 3840 by 2160. Even on the HDMI output, the highest you can get is 3840 by 2160. I don't shoot that often in DCI. I was always wondering why there was no UHD 4K in the 5D Mark IV. But if you like to shoot DCI, which is more towards the narrative film, then that's not on the EOS R. And I would say that's the only thing missing that the 5D Mark IV has over the EOS R. Otherwise, the EOS R, to me, is superior in video features and quality to the 5D Mark IV. With the HDMI output on the 5D Mark IV, it's only HD. You can't output 4K, and it's 8-bit. With the HDMI output on the EOS R, you have 422 10-bit at UHD 4K. So if you have an external recorder like the Atomos recorders, you can connect it and get 422 10-bit with an unlimited record time. This has a microphone input and a headphone input, just like the 5D Mark IV. When it comes to the 4K crop factor, that is a big deal, major drawback on the EOS R. It crops into about 1.6 times when you're in 4K, and it seems a bit more wobbly. The footage seems more wobbly when you're in the 4K mode versus the HD mode. The Canon 5D Mark IV had a bigger crop, 4K crop, when it goes to DCI 4K than the EOS R did. I think this one was like a 1.74-ish, around there. So you get a wider angle of view in the EOS R in the 4K mode. Users have been complaining that there's only one SD card on the EOS R, so you can't do a redundant recording because the Sony and the Panasonic and the Fuji, they all have dual SD card slots, but the EOS R only has one, and that was a complaint. However, the Canon 5D Mark IV, even though it has a CF card and a SD card, when you're recording video, it only allowed you to record to one card at a time anyways. So the jump from a 5D Mark IV to EOS R, just in comparing these two, is the same. You get the same limitation. But when you compare the EOS R to other brands, it's not as good. But I don't need more than one SD card. I have not had a failure yet, and I think that's fine. It's not a big issue with me. It's more of an issue that this does a crop in the 4K. When it comes to lenses, here's an interesting pro and con with the EOS R. So I purchased the EOS R with the 24-105 RF lens, and it's not that small considering this is a mirrorless camera. This is a pretty large lens. It's not as large as the 24-105 Mark II L lens. It's not as heavy either, but it's not small. So having this lens on an EOS R, or having the 24-105 with the EF to RF adapter, makes the lenses unbalanced and odd looking on the EOS R. Canon full frame lenses are huge, and that's just a reality, and dealing with it is awkward to hold, but that's just a trade-off. I had thought the mirrorless RF lenses were going to be smaller, but they're not. When I do my video comparison really soon, I'm going to put the 24-105 on the 5D Mark IV, and then the 24-105 RF lens on the EOS R, and just compare how these two lenses look natively to their native mounts. Between the EF 24-105 and the RF 24-105, in stills quality, in my eye, the 24-105 EF lens is better. But when it comes to video mode, I just find it easier to use to shoot video with the 24-105 RF lens than I do having this adapter on and then using this. So for video, I'll stick with the 24-105 RF lens. But when it comes to stills, if I only have these two lenses, I don't know. If I'm very critical, I would use the 24-105 Mark II EF. But this range, it's not that big of a difference in stills quality. I notice it, but it's not where I'm going to be disappointed using the RF lens. Now, when it comes to the adapter that has the built-in ND filter, that's a huge advantage with the EOS R because you can now shoot video with a variable ND that's close to the sensor and not on the lens. And in that case, you can't use the 24-105. I wish that Canon will come up with an adapter that just has the variable ND filter on it, but you can use it with RF lenses. Maybe they'll come up with that. But right now, if you want to use the variable ND adapter, you have to use EF lenses. I have EF lenses, so I don't have to worry about that. Okay, now on to the test between the Canon 5D Mark IV to the EOS R. I'm going to shoot in the highest 4K quality that either camera can shoot in at 30p.